beautiful people, and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about this really cool hand trick that you can do to help memorize the quadrant 1 of the unit circle. Now I have memorized in quotations because it's not a way to memorize as it is more of a way to derive. But if you use it so many times, you're going to have this stuff memorized. So instead of you looking at my hand, we're going to use a cutout hand that I have here. Now, first of all, it has to be your left hand, not your right hand. Now, imagine, actually, let me back up here. Let me draw a simulation here. So here is our unit circle. Okay, pretend that's perfect. There's certain things that we should know about a unit circle. For example, we should know that this is 360 degrees, or one revolution. One cycle, one period is 360 degrees if we are measuring in degrees. And then one revolution, one cycle in radians is 2 pi. Half of a cycle is 180 degrees, or pi. And then half of a cycle, so a quarter of a cycle, is pi halves, or 90 degrees. So those are the things that we need to know. Again, we are focusing on quadrant 1. That is the most important thing. So we know that we have two triangles that the unit circle is based off, the 30, 60, 90 triangle, and then the 45, 45 triangle. So we have our 3 angle measures. And these are the ones that we're going to be using in our hand demonstration. Okay, so we know that the first one is 30 degrees. We have 45 degrees. We have 60 degrees. We also want to write these out in radians. So we have pi 6, pi fourths, pi thirds. Now, someone in class asked me, like, how do you memorize which one goes which? The only way that I know how to memorize them is the 4 in 45. Let me zoom in here. The 4 in 45 matches up with the 4 in the denominator, so that kind of eliminates one. And then the other ones I know are opposites. For example, 3 and 6 are opposite, and 6 and 3 are opposites. You know that 60 or 6 is important. We know 30 is important, so we know the number 3 is going to be important. We know the number 6 is going to be important, and we also know the number 4 is going to be important. So 3, 4, 6. And then you can also think about it being backwards, 3, 4, 6, 3, 4, 6, 3, 4, 6. Okay, that's super important. Now, what else is important is the location of these points here. Those are going to be your X and your Y coordinate systems. Excuse me, your X and your Y points. So here it is. Here's one of them. Here's 2 of them, and 3 of them. Okay, so these are going to be your location points. Now, what's super duper important, I'm going to scooch this off to the side so I can have a thinking bubble. What's super duper duper important to realize is that your X value is always going to be your cosine, and your Y is going to be your sine. Remember, trig is just a ratio. It's the ratio of sides on a triangle. It's specifically a right triangle if we're using things like sine, cosine, and tangent. Okay. We can also do the reciprocals of those, but we're going to focus on sine, cosine, tangent in this video. Okay, so this is your cosine of x value, and this is your sine of x. So I'm going to say cosine of theta. Ooh, too many lines in theta. Cosine of theta is equal to whatever this x value is, and then sine of theta is equal to whatever this y value is. Okay, don't forget that. All right, let's go back to our unit circle. So we want to know what these values are, okay? So these values. This is where your left hand comes into play. Now, you should have these values memorized, and I'm going to, maybe not in this video, but in the next video, I'll talk about ways to memorize it. If I have a chance to talk about it in this video, definitely keep watching. But you do need to have these memorized. So when I originally took trigonometry, it was very difficult for me to have this stuff memorized. I didn't know this hand trick, and boy, it would have helped me a lot. But I have it now, and I would like to share it with you. So here is our quadrant 1, and that's again what we're going to be focusing on. Quadrant 1. And imagine that this is your left hand, and let's see if I can maybe sketch it. This is your pinky. Okay, don't mind my drawing. I am not an art teacher. I have no idea how to draw things. Here's your pinky. Here's your ring finger, your middle finger, your pointer or index finger, and then here is your thumb. It's actually not too bad. Kind of proud of that. Okay, so there is your left hand. So you can flip this over to your side, so that way you have your 90 degrees. But because you're going to be holding your hand out in front of you, you want this facing you. Again, it's your left hand that you're holding out in front of you. Okay, so we're going to identify the things that we know first. We know our degrees, so 0 degrees or 360. Oops, 360. We also know, let's color code. So let's do our degrees first. So we have 30 degrees, we have 45 degrees, we have 60 degrees, we have 90 degrees. So we have those. We also know our radians, our radian measures, and again, how do we do that? Think opposites. First off, you want to type in or write in your 2 pi and pi. Those are going to be your easiest, get out of the way. So we have 3, 4, 6. So now let's do opposites. So pi thirds, pi fourth, pi sixth. Okay, so there you have it. I do want you to keep this right here because we're going to be filling in our sine and cosine values, but I'm going to shift this off to the side just so you can see all of the left hand. Okay. Let me actually put another sheet of paper underneath here so that way we can see the full hand. Let's see. I can't really see it, so I do have to zoom in. I apologize. Let's see if my lights. I'm trying to get it so that way you can see everything. That just did not do nothing. Okay. So let's say you want to find out one of your questions. We're going to be multitasking here with papers. One of your questions is you want to evaluate let's do something like sine of 30 degrees. And you should have this memorized already, but let's say you don't, sine of 30 degrees. So you're coming over here, you have your left hand in front of you, and you want sine of 30 degrees. So you're going over to your 30-degree finger, and you're going to bend that in. Okay, so you're bending that finger in. So now we're looking back at here. On the left-hand side, so the first thing we have here is our cosine. On the right-hand side, we have our sine. So I'm going to kind of write our steps. So assign degrees, radians to each finger. Step number 2 is bend the finger of which degree or radiant you are evaluating. Step 3, count the fingers to the left and right of your bent finger. Step number 4, I'm going to write it in a different marker. So the number of fingers to your left is your numerator. square rooted, and your right is your numerator, square rooted, and then one thing you have to always note is that all of your values are going to be divided by 2, and this divided by 2 never changes, so it's always going to be there. So it's always divided by 2 and always square root. All right, let's try this out. So what did we talk about? We wanted to evaluate sine of 30 degrees. So I have my 30-degree finger bent. So one thing I didn't mention is that the left is going to be your cosine. Well, let me shift that up. Of theta answer. Your right is going to be your sine of theta answer. Just like we did here, on the left-hand side is your x, so your cosine, and your right-hand side is your sine. Okay, so what do I have here? I'm trying to do sine of, what am I trying to do? Sine of 30 degrees. Sorry about that. Sine of 30 degrees. So here's 30 degrees. So sine is to your right-hand side. So right-hand side, how many fingers do I have? I have one finger up on my right-hand side. So one finger up on my right-hand side. Always square root, always divided by 2. So what is the square root of 1? It's just 1 divided by 2. So sine of 30 degrees is 1/2. Let's do a few more. And I'm just going to do the basics. I'm not going to talk about reference angle or coterminal angles here. Go ahead and head over there to watch that video. Okay, so let's do example 2, example 3, example 4, example 5, and example 6. I don't know if you guys are hearing that, but all of my devices are just buzzing away right now. Feel very important. All right, so let's do example 2. Let's do something in radians. So let's do cosine of pi fourths. Let's do cosine of 60 degrees. Let's do tangent of 30 degrees. Let's do tangent of 90 degrees. And let's do sine of, sine of 2 pi. So we have our examples here. So we have cosine of pi fourths. Let's do that first. So again, cosine is on the left-hand side, and we want pi fourths. So here's our finger. You can't really see it, so I have to shift the sheet of paper. So we want pi fourths, cosine of pi fourths. Here's our pi fourth finger. We're going to bring that down. And obviously, you're not going to be doing that with a sheet of paper in front of you. You're going to be doing that with your hand. So just bend that finger. And we want cosine of pi fourths. Cosine is on the left-hand side. So how many number of fingers do you have? You have 1, 2 fingers. So I'm going to come over here and I'll automatically start writing my answer. So I have 2 fingers. I'm going to root that and always divided by 2. And you have your answer. Now, if you need to simplify, for example, on tangent, we'll need to simplify some of these. Go ahead and do so. But if you don't, then you have your final answer. So let's do cosine of 60 degrees. Cosine 60 degrees, where is 60? 60 is right here. Cosine is on your left-hand side. Cosine of 60 degrees, I have 1 finger up here. So that is cosine of 60 degrees. I have 1 finger, square root divided by 2, which is 1/2. Let's do sine of 2 pi. I'm going to skip tangent for the end. Sine of 2 pi. Okay, where is our 2 pi? 2 pi is down here. I'm going to cross that out. Sine is on our right-hand side. So how many fingers do I have on this side? I have 0 fingers on this side. Always square root, always divided by 2. The square root of 0 is 0, divided by 2 is still 0. So sine of 2 pi is 0. And let's talk about tangent. Now, with our left-hand trick here, we only know that sine and cosine, but that's something really cool that we know is that tangent is sine over cosine of that degree. So if we have sine of 30 degrees, we have if we have tangent of 30 degrees, we have sine of 30 degrees over cosine of 30 degrees. If we have tangent of 90, we have sine of 90 over cosine of 90 degrees. And then since we know that tangent is sine over cosine, we can use the left-hand trick to evaluate sine of 30 and cosine of 30, sine of 90, cosine of 90. All right, so let's do sine of 30. Where's 30 degrees? 30 degrees is right here. I'm going to bend that finger. Oh, and I already know what sine of 30 is. It's right here. Sine of 30 is 1/2. I'm running out of space. I'm going to write down here below. So I'm going to bring example 4 over here. So we have tangent of 30 degrees is equal to sine of 30 over cosine of 30, again, degrees. Sine of 30 degrees, we already found that out, is 1/2. Cosine of 30 degrees, here's my left hand. Cosine is on the left-hand side. I have 1, 2, 3 fingers. So that is root 3 over 2. This is a fraction divided by a fraction. How do we divide fractions? We divide fractions by multiplying by the reciprocal. So I'm going to flip my fraction here. I have root 3 over 2, so I'm going to have 2 over root 3. My 2's cancel out, so I have 1 over root 3. So then I have to rationalize the denominator by multiplying by root 3 top and bottom. So root 3 over 3 is your final answer for the tangent of 30. Okay, and then we have tangent of 90 degrees. Again, sine of 90 over cosine of 90. So sine of 90, where's our 90 degree finger? Our 90 degree finger is here. Now 90, 360, 180, 270, those you should already have memorized. There's some sort of combination of 0 and 1. So depending on where it is located, it would be if it's a positive, it's a -1. If it's an x, that's a 1. If it's a y, that's a 1. So I know immediately that my 90 degrees is my positive x on my graph here. And I know that this point right here, when I'm writing my x and y value, this is on the y-axis. So I'm going to have 0, 1. And then we are talking about having, what do I have? Sine and cosine. So I have cosine and I have sine. Now you can use your left hand on this one. I'm just pointing out that you should know that one by heart already. But let's move on here. So we have sine of 90 degrees. Here it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. So root 4 over 2. Cosine of 90, how many fingers do I have to the left of that finger? I have 0. And you can simplify this if you want. You know, root 4 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. But you're still going to end up with 0 or undefined. So tangent of 90 degrees is undefined. All right, you guys, hopefully this hand trick is useful to help you memorize or derive your quadrant number 1. Again, please do not take all that time to develop your entire unit circle. All you need to develop is your quadrant number 1, and then use your reference angles, use your coterminal angles to figure out what your angle would be in quadrant 1, and then use the all students take calculus to know if your final answers are going to be positive or negative. Again, quadrant 1 is all you need when it's asking you to evaluate trig functions. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do hope that this has been helpful. Again, like, share, and subscribe. Tell everyone about it, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.